Hello, everyone, and welcome to Straight Talk Reloaded. I'm Stephanie Scalaro. I hope you've all had an amazing week. I know that it's been a news heavy week in that there are a lot of major stories that are developing in this last week of Joe Biden's presidency. I'm going to touch on a few of the latest news events that have just hit the news waves, and we'll dive a little deeper into a few stories that have already started to develop. It looks like TikTok is on its way to being banned. If the Chinese company does not sell to an American company ASAP, as of this Sunday, the popular social media app will be banned in the United States. I know that both Elon Musk and Kevin O'Leary, they're both very wealthy businessmen, as you know, they have expressed an interest in purchasing TikTok, but as of today, no deals have been made. The Supreme Court is expected to weigh in on this issue, and President Trump has openly asked SCOTUS to allow him the opportunity as president to try to come up with some kind of deal before the app is outright banned from the United States. I guess we'll know for sure if TikTok survives by the end of this week. And I'm sure a lot of people, kids especially, will be anticipating this decision. In the meantime, kids are flocking to another Chinese app called Red Note. It is very similar to TikTok, except it is entirely in Mandarin. This doesn't seem to be a deterrent, though, as tons of TikTok users are making the move over to RedNote. And that includes Candace Owens. She actually joined the app herself to see what it was like. And she said that despite it being in Mandarin, it was very similar to the video format of TikTok. She spoke with a mom who also moved over to RedNote, and the mom said that the app was very easy. You just kind of had to figure out what they were saying. I don't think I could do that. I really don't. And what is the deal with people in America being fascinated with Chinese apps, Chinese social media apps? I don't understand that. I mean, I get that you like TikTok because it's cute and they have funny videos and stuff, but once you go to an app that's in all Mandarin, I don't know. I mean, what are they doing? Are they brainwashing us while we're on TikTok? I don't know. Are they stealing our personal data, which really was one of the major reasons they wanted to ban TikTok in the first place? So I'm not really sure what the hullabaloo is about all this stuff, but it's very interesting. I know Congress has been looking into this Chinese-owned app, the Red Note app, as well as TikTok. So here's another thing. What about the First Amendment? Does a government ban on a social media app violate the public's right to free speech? I don't know. I mean, it's a legitimate question I'm asking myself. I'm a huge proponent of free speech. And I've been saying this entire administration that it has been a war on words, basically. You know, they, them, you can't call somebody a woman, or you can't, just a war on words. They're trying to change the English language, basically. So I don't know. Would this be an infringement of our First Amendment right to free speech? That shouldn't Americans have access to things that they want, and then we get to decide if they're, good, bad, and different? I don't know. There is a divestiture requirement in the quote unquote law that stated that TikTok could stay in the United States if it sold itself to a United States owned company. And they've had 9 months to do this. So oral arguments were already heard on last Friday, with SCOTUS. And if the court does not step in some manner before this Sunday, I guess we can all say bye-bye to TikTok. Years ago, when I was a kid, that's a lot of years ago, it was all over the news about red dye number 5. Red dye number 5 causes cancer. Red dye number 5 kills. So after all of this stuff, right, about red dye number 5, they finally ended up banning it. And as kids, we were like, oh my God, don't eat the red M&Ms. And yes, there used to be red M&Ms. Everybody used to throw them out after the red dye number 5 thing. So consequently, that's why we don't have red ones anymore. So I don't know. Do they have red ones? I don't know. I haven't eaten M&Ms in a while. So, but they did stop making red M&Ms for a while because of that. So now, 30 years later, thanks guys, the FDA has decided to get rid of red dye number 3. In the last week of Biden's administration, they decided to do this. Okay, they had 4 years. Why now? I don't know. So they can say they did something good for Americans' health. So they could take this away from Bobby Kennedy once he gets in there and starts leading HHS. I'm not really sure, but I know Cheryl Atkinson is a great reporter. She's actually from Florida here originally. Well, I don't know about originally, but she started reporting. She was a reporter here in the Tampa Bay area when I was a young person. Red dye number 3. She did a whole report on this, and this is what she has found out about red dye number 3. It is used in all kinds of processed snacks and candy. It's been linked to thyroid, liver, heart, reproductive and immune system issues, and brain issues, people. That's ADHD, hyperactivity. It's also linked to cancer in animals. And a lot of times when we do studies on meds or any other kind of products, once they find that it causes cancer in animals, we usually do not use it on humans. But apparently they decided to go ahead and use red dye number 3 on us. So, red dye number 3 was already banned from cosmetics in the 1990s due to cancer risk. So they knew it had a cancer risk on humans. And it was already banned in other countries. And a consumer group had petitioned for a ban since 2022. So now they decide to ban it. Okay. Well, here's the question. Why is it taking so long for the FDA in general to ban substances from our food, from our medicines? Aren't they supposed to be acting on behalf of the good health of all Americans? Are we in the greatest country in the world? Really? We are? Well, then why, as a whole, are Americans some of the most unhealthy and sickest of all populations? Why did I feel so much better in Sicily on my family vacation than I do on a daily basis here in Florida? Okay. So for those of you out there who don't know, I'm a breast cancer survivor. After having chemo, I developed a ton of autoimmune issues. Some of them are very severe. So I am in pain all the time. And I'm also allergic to pain medications. So I have to find alternative methods of treating pain if I can tolerate them. And unfortunately, most things that I try, I cannot tolerate. I have some kind of horrible reaction to them. So we were getting ready to go on a family trip to Sicily. First time I've ever been there to see our family members that are there. And we go, and I'm thinking I'm prepared for everything. Okay. And I have asthma, as does my mom. So we've got our inhaler. I'm ready. I'm ready to go. We get there. There's a lot of walking. So we did do a lot of walking, a lot more than we do here. Florida is pretty flat. Sicily is like that. Okay. It goes up to a point. So we did all this walking, and I ate normally. I had dessert. I had alcoholic beverages. We enjoyed our trip. Okay. Needless to say, I had pasta. I had pizza. I had everything. I come back to the United States. I've lost 10 pounds and I feel better than I have in years. So what could it possibly be? Right? Why? Oh, well, it was the walking. Yeah, but I work out here. I have a treadmill. I have a whole home gym set up. So I, have the ability to do that here, and I still feel terrible here. I took all the same medications. I ate the same, pretty much. A little bit more, dessert and alcohol because we were on vacation. So I was prepared to have gained weight when we got back here. No, lost 10 pounds. So why is that? It's the food. So basically, our food is poisoning us. Okay? My suggestion is read Cheryl Atkinson's Substack on this subject matter, on red dye number 3. It's very informative. Also, check out Dr. Peter McCullough, who also writes on this subject matter on Substack, but he is also on X and has a lot, and so does Cheryl. They have a lot of their good information on X. You can find most of this there. I ask you to read it because you will be shocked at the things that the American FDA allows companies to do to us. To us. Why? So I can't wait for RFK Jr. to get in there and clean it up. So prepare yourselves, Americans. We're about to find out just how much we've been poisoned by our own government, and it ain't going to be pretty. So what's the latest on the California fires? Well, Palisades is gone, Malibu is gone, Altamira, Pasadena, gone. And I just saw in the news earlier today, Ventura is starting to go. And this fire is still burning. Ridiculous, California. Ridiculous. Is this why you do everything? Because you did this when you were trying to add up votes for the election, too. It lasted over a week. The original fire in Pacific Palisades could have been stopped in the very beginning. Okay. Now, I am going to read a post from reporter Michael Schellenberger. He's an amazing reporter. Follow him on X. He gives you all kinds of information, especially on the California fire. I'm going to read this to you because it is so informative and very enlightening. So he says, California is the richest state with the highest taxes, and yet it cut funding for firefighting, which led directly to LA's catastrophic fires. Why? Because Newsom and Bass diverted billions from preventing and fighting catastrophic fires to migrants, homeless, and climate. Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass claimed her $17.5 million cut to the LA Fire Department budget did not impact the department's ability to prevent or fight fires. But the LA fire chief told CNN that the $17 million budget cut did absolutely negatively impact the department's ability to respond to the fires. And a video released yesterday by News Nation, which was shot by a former employee of Kamala Harris, shows that it took the LA Fire Department 45 minutes to respond to the Pacific Palisades fire. That's the first fire that started everything. It could have been confined, said attorney Michael Valentine. It would not have touched any of the homes. It is impossible to stop fires from starting in Los Angeles. The challenge is to put them out before they become catastrophic. And the video provides evidence that firefighters could have responded earlier. By 10:50, the plume had spread considerably, twice as large, reported Rich McHugh. 8 minutes later, the size of the fire seems to have doubled yet again. Still nobody fighting the fire. At 11:13 a.m., nearly 45 minutes after Michael's wife called in the fire, you see a chopper come through at 11:23. A helicopter comes in, begins to dump water on it. But at this point, the fire is massive and moving quickly down this ridgeline. And now, a second firefighter has come forward to say that there was not sufficient funding for pre-deployment. And I'm sure that played a role. The fire prevention department has taken huge cuts too, and it limited their resources. Specifically, this person said there were not enough mechanics, engines, or fire stations. LA has been cutting the budget of the LA Fire Department for years, leading to rising response times. You're supposed to be en route in 30 seconds and there in 3 to 5 minutes. But now it's 10 minutes and on the extreme end, 30 minutes, said the firefighter. The other day, they had a cardiac arrest call that took 30 minutes, and there was a pediatric call 2 weeks ago, and the station that was available was very far away, and it took them a long time to get to the kid. The whistleblower said staffing and equipment shortages create two tragedies. The first are unnecessary deaths, and the second is the impact on the firefighters. They just can't make it to places fast enough, and it's a hazard to the public, said the whistleblower. A family member is dying, and it's 30 minutes to show up, and then they're yelling at the firefighters who are trying to do their job, but there's not enough of them. Some of that stuff really affects them. The LA Fire Department budget is $820 million, and significantly more is needed. The number of calls LA firefighters make in a year has tripled over the last 30 years, while staffing has declined by 1/3, according to another whistleblower. The LA firefighters are currently owed significant back pay and have filed a lawsuit against the city. And he continues going on and talks about where's all the money going. And basically, it says that the money was diverted. They sent it to deal with homelessness, to fund all the migrants that are there in the city. Okay? This is ridiculous. So now there were no planes flying, right? That's the first thing I thought when they first started showing it on television. My God, where's the planes? They have 1 million military bases there in California. Get those C-130s up with the water or the retardant or whatever they do and put this fire out, right? Nobody. And they said, well, we couldn't go because the winds were so bad. That was the problem. No, it was not the problem. The problem was because there was an airspace restriction over that entire area. You know why? Because of President Biden. His administration kept the airspace restriction up. Okay? Because he was flying in there and they left it up and refused to remove it. And that's a fact. So we now know that the reservoirs were completely empty and had been empty for months. This is why the firemen could not use the hydrants, not because the power was shut down. In fact, there's a new topic of discussion regarding smart meters. Smart meters have been put on most California homes, especially the new ones. PG&E is the energy company that's there in California. It's the main one, right? So they upgraded this is a quote from them. They upgraded their metering system to smart meters as part of a statewide effort to upgrade California's energy infrastructure. Why? Well, most residents have complained that their energy bills have spiked since putting the smart meters on their homes. They send readings at regular intervals to the monitoring energy company and allow the consumer to see just how much money they owe. They literally can look it up to the cent, okay? Almost every home that burned down in these fires had a smart meter. Yep. Scientists that were monitoring the fault zones during the fires noticed there were electric surges in the fault zones right as the fires were starting in the Pacific Palisades. Are they related? I don't know. But it sure is a huge coincidence, right? And supposedly they've caught several people committing arson. So even Bill Maher was on his show, or actually he was on TMZ Live, and he was saying how disgusted he is with California because these fires were absolutely avoidable. And he's disgusted that Newsom is like, oh, we're going to cut all the red tape. And he's doing his little shimmy on TV. Yeah, we're going to cut all the red tape. I talked to the governor of Hawaii, the guy that screwed over Lahaina. Yeah, and we're coming up with a plan of how to fix California. Be afraid, California. Be afraid. Okay? And meanwhile, our federal government pledges to cover all the costs for the first 180 days of recovery, while the people in Western North Carolina are still waiting for assistance. I believe the bigger picture of what's happening in California remains to be seen. But I believe that once President Trump gets in there, they're going to start digging around and finding out what actually happened there. So we've got all of Trump's cabinet nominees going through the ringer on Capitol Hill this week. Marco Rubio is said to be doing well. Lee Zeldin, Doug Burgum, Scott Bessent, Sean Duffy. They're all getting serious questions from Democrat senators, but all are said to be headed for confirmation. I myself was able to watch two hearings in full. I saw Pete Hegseth and Pam Bondi. Both were electric. That's how I could describe it. Pete Hegseth had a great opening statement that was interrupted constantly by a bunch of protesters that kept screaming. Turns out they were invited by Democratic senators. Yep. They had seats held there for them for that. Well, Pete's opening statement, outlined his background, his love for his country, his family, and his God. Republican senators asked substantive questions on his positions about those that serve and on his feelings about current DoD policies. Pete was calm and articulate and was very clear that he was keen to get the U.S. military back to the glorious and respected fighting machine that we've always been without DEI policies or woke ideology. And then the Democrat senators start asking questions. They didn't really ask questions. They just accused him of things, especially Senator Tim Kaine. It was so disgusting. My face looked like this. The whole time I'm watching it, I was just like, what? The questions were all sexual in nature, and he was saying things. The man's family is sitting behind him, and he's talking about how he cheated on his wife, and he got the girl pregnant, and he has a child out of wedlock. And I mean, what? We've already heard all that stuff. Okay? It's not illegal to do whatever he did. And yes, a lot of guys that come back from military service have issues when they come back. And apparently Pete is one of those people, but he has never denied it. And he's always been upfront, and he's not a perfect guy, but I do think he is great for this particular position. So now Pam Bondi comes up, and she's got her questions. She did great. She showed grace under fire. She showed her intelligence that all of us Floridians know that she's got. Of course, disgraceful questioning by Blumenthal, Padilla, and Hirono. She was asked about weaponization of the DOJ and keeping the DOJ independent of the White House, right? So her response is, oh, you mean like the last 4 years of the Biden DOJ? Yeah, it was great. She was great. I will say, if you get a chance to see some of the clips of that, I suggest that you watch it because it does show what she's made of, and I think she'll do great in that position. So overall, I would say most of these cabinet hearings are going well, and I'm sure they're going to try to hold up the hearings, especially for Kash Patel, RFK Jr., and Tulsi Gabbard. All three of these positions are very key in implementing America First policies that will get our government back on track, working for we, the people. So, and let me make one last point. Mazie Hirono is an idiot. I mean, do better, Hawaii, for God's sake. Ron DeSantis finally made his selection to replace Marco Rubio as senator for Florida. It's going to be our current AG, Ashley Moody. Ashley Moody, great choice for this. This was live on television today. She is a fifth-generation Floridian. Originally grew up in Plant City, Florida, just a few minutes away from me. 2006, she became the youngest judge in Florida at 31 years old. She was educated. She was elected as the AG of Florida in 2019. I think she was educated at the University of Florida, and she has dedicated herself as AG here to prioritizing fighting the opioid crisis and human trafficking. I believe she will make a great senator. And this now opens up the door for Byron Donalds to run for governor of Florida when the time comes. So overall, great pick for Florida and for our national government. Speaking of nominees, has anyone seen Vivek? Where's Vivek Ramaswamy? I mean, he seems to kind of stepped out of the spotlight of Doge. He was out in the spotlight with Elon all the time. Last time he was in the news was when he and Elon were weighing in on the importance of the H-1B visas and how they affect the U.S. economy and jobs. So I started looking into it, and OAN actually had an article on this. And they are reporting that the reason that Vivek has stepped out of the spotlight lately is because President Trump has asked him to consider taking over J.D. Vance's Senate seat for Ohio. Vivek is from Cincinnati, so he definitely qualifies. And it's being said that Vivek and Governor Mike DeWine of Ohio have been talking about this move and or the possibility of Vivek running for governor of Ohio. Either way, I think he'd make a great senator and would try to keep Congress honest and accountable to the American people. So I'm excited to see where this goes. All right. We have a ceasefire in Gaza. Yes, it's about damn time. Wait a minute. Looks like Netanyahu's having an issue now. No, it's Hamas breaking part of the agreement. Wait, now Netanyahu's saying we're still a go on the ceasefire / hostage return. Holy Christ, it's only been a few hours since this was announced, and I feel like I've been on an emotional roller coaster already. Can you imagine how all of those families in Israel feel? So, for those of you who haven't heard, the Trump administration and the Biden administration, yeah, right, has sent their envoy to Israel to work on this deal for the past few weeks. Israel and Hamas had agreed to a ceasefire deal that would have ensured the release of hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners, terrorists really, that had been held by Israel. It was supposed to be 33 people released over a period of 6 weeks. So the Israeli cabinet had a vote scheduled for this afternoon to approve the deal when suddenly Prime Minister Netanyahu comes out and has accused Hamas of reneging on the agreed upon deal with new demands. So now the cabinet vote on this agreement has been delayed indefinitely. Just so you know, Israel has come to the table multiple times with ceasefire terms that they've agreed to a deal, and then Hamas at the last minute every time wants to change the terms. Look, give these families back their dead and give back all of the hostages. Then you guys can blow each other to oblivion, okay? I can tell you this. President Trump is not kidding around when he says there will be hell to pay if our hostages are not freed before he takes the oath of office. He is not a bluffer, Hamas, Israel. I hope you're listening. I mean, do we need to send a Moab over there? That's not going to be a good look for you guys. That's for sure. Let's get this deal done so we can all move on to the business of making America great again, which in turn will make the world a better, safer place. We've got the inauguration celebration coming up soon. And I'll be honest with you, I'm very nervous about it. I'm very nervous about it. I will not feel good until President Trump is sworn in there and we can see him start getting to work. But even after that, I don't feel good about his security. So everybody out there, let's keep President Trump and his cabinet members and their families in our prayers. And I can't wait until that inauguration. Thank you all for joining me tonight on Straight Talk Reloaded. You can find me on TikTok, IG, YouTube, and X under Straight Talk Reloaded. We usually film on Thursday evenings, and we try to have the newest show available by Friday evening. So please feel free to give us any story ideas that you may want to see covered, and we'll dig into it for you. Please remember to keep my producer and friend, Paul, in your prayers as he is still in the hospital recovering from a very serious car accident. We love you, Paul, and we're all praying for you to get well soon. I'm Stephanie Scalaro. See you next week on Straight Talk Reloaded.